Good morning everyone. In the last video we have discussed about the structure of the pollen grains and the uses of the pollen grains, and we also came to know that the pollen grain, through the process of the microsporogenesis, it's developed into a mature pollen grain. Now today we will discuss about the gynoecium. Yes, today we will discuss about the gynoecium. And what we know about the gynoecium? So the gynoecium is the female reproductive part. Now we already know these things very well, that androecium is the male reproductive part, whereas the gynoecium is the female reproductive part. And one more also thing, that the each unit of the androecium we call them as stamen, and the group of stamen is togetherly called as androecium. So same way the gynoecium, so the gynoecium is a plural form. It represents the total female reproductive structure. Remind it very, I'll deal over here very slowly so you can get the complete knowledge. So the gynoecium is the total unit, okay, but the each unit of the female reproductive system, it's called as carpel or pistil. Both are same only, okay. So what happens, this carpel and pistil is the each unit of the female reproductive system, but the gynoecium is the plural. That means when the many carpels are fused with each other or are present, so it represent totally togetherly, it represent gynoecium. And we also know that the flower, so flower is the most fascinating features of the higher angiosperm. So where we can get this gynoecium? We can get the gynoecium either in the, if the flower is bisexual flower and if the flower is the female flower. So where we can get the gynoecium? The possibilities is there. We can get only in bisexual flower, like we already know it's a hibiscus. And if it is a unisexual flower, if it is unisexual flower, so in the unisexual flower, in the female flower only we can get the presence or carpel or pistil or gynoecium. So what is the gynoecium? Gynoecium is the plural, okay. That means that togetherly the carpel and pistil is represent gynoecium. It's clear, okay. Now here we have to know some details of this gynoecium. Now if we look into that, the gynoecium, so the gynoecium, it might be fused, it might be free, so many things are also present, but we have to know that each things in detail. Now here in the gynoecium we already know the carpel is present. That means the each unit of the gynoecium is called as carpel. Now in flower, okay, generally we already know the gynoecium is present. Now this gynoecium, okay, in a flower and single unit we already know it's called as carpel. Now this carpel, it can be one, okay, the carpel can be one, and if the carpel is one, so that is known as monocarpellary, okay. So as it is one, so that's why it's called as mono, okay. Mono means we already know it's a single, monocarpellary, okay. So what are the examples of the monocarpellary? The monocarpellary examples commonly the maize, rice. So here we can write maize, rice. These are the common example of the monocarpellary. That means in the maize flower, in the flower of rice, if you look into it, their flower, in their flower there is a presence of only single carpel, so that's why it's called as monocarpellary. Same way the carpel number can be more than one, okay, can be more than one. It can be 2, it can be 3, or it can be 300 also, it's not a matter. So it can be more than one. So if the more than one, so we can call them as polycarpellary. We can call them as polycarpellary, okay. So what is the polycarpellary? So the polycarpellary means if the in a flower the carpel number is more than 1, so we can call that one as a polycarpellary. Now in this polycarpellary, there is some different thing is also there we have to know. So the polycarpellary, that means the carpel number is single or many? Yes, many. So if it is a many, so suppose if you think about my fingers are carpel, okay, so these carpels, each one is carpel. Now this carpel can be free, okay, they are not touching with each other, and they can be fused like this. So same way in a flower also, this carpel can be free or can be fused. So what happens in the carpel, this carpel can be fused or can be free, okay, so can be fused or can be free. So if it is a fused, so that fused condition is called as syncarpus, okay. If the carpels are fused, it's called as syncarpus, okay, it's called as syncarpus. So syncarpus. So syn means togetherly. So that means suppose these are my carpels. If these carpels are free or fused, suppose these fused conditions. So if it is a fused, so we can call them as syncarpus. It can be free like this. Our fingers are free. So it thinks the each one is the carpel. If it is the free, so we can call them as apocarpus. Okay, if it is a free, we can call them as apocarpus. Okay, so what are the examples? So the fused carpel generally we are getting in papaver. So can you tell me some features about papaver? So the papaver is the scientific name of opium plant, okay, papaver somniferum, opium. So from there we are getting drug, it's opioids. So papaver somniferum, okay. So and syncarpus. So but here main thing is that how to memorize these things. You can very easily, you can forget these things, very simple. So think that syn means togetherly. So in your family, who hold the family togetherly? Definitely your papa. So papa what means the papaver somniferum. So same way the apocarpus. So apo means free. So where we can get? Very simple. So free, those things, those are publics or those are human beings are free. Generally they use involved in either singing, either dancing. So here very simple things you can remind Michaelia. So very easily we can remind Michael Jackson. So same way here we can remind Michaelia, okay. Clear? So what we have discussed? We have discussed that the gynoecium, okay, the female reproductive part of a flower, it's called as gynoecium. And where we can get the gynoecium? The gynoecium we can get in the bisexual flower, okay, and otherwise the unisexual male female flower. And the each unit of the gynoecium we can call them as carpel or pistil, whatever you like you can call them, it's not a problem. Now this carpel in a flower can be single. If it is a single, we can call them as monocarpellary, and can be more than one. If it is a more than one, we can call them as polycarpellary. So the monocarpellary ovary where we are getting, or gynoeciums where we are getting in maize and rice. And the polycarpellary, poly means many carpels are present togetherly. So the carpels are many, so they might be fused. If it is a fused, it's called as syncarpus. Where we are getting papaver in papaver somniferum, okay. So papaver is a scientific name of opium plants, from where we are also getting drug, it's called as opioids. So in your little bit later, after many chapters, we have one drugs chapter. That portion will come to know that one, what is the details of the opioids, what are the receptive centers or nervous, how it is impact on our health, we will definitely discuss on that. So next is the carpel can be free. So if it is a free, or if it is a free, so we call them as apocarpus. So the apocarpus, where we are getting? We are getting in Michelia. Now let's move into the detailed structure of a pistil or carpel. So here, now if we discuss, listen to it very nicely, okay, and observe the each things very minutely. So the carpel has total 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? So first part is the stigma, second part is the style, and the third part is the ovary. So the carpel has total 3 parts. First part is stigma, second part is style, and the third part is the ovary. So these are the portion. Okay, now if we discuss about the stigma, so what is the stigma? So if you look into the top portion of the stigma, it's a broader. Okay, so why it's a broader? Because over this stigma easily the pollen grain can fall. Okay, we already know after the dehiscence the pollen grain will be released into environment, that we already discussed on that, pollen grain into environments, and once they released into the environments, so by the wind, by the different kind of the animals, by the insects, it might be fall over the stigma. So if that particular area will be narrower, so what will happen? The stigma will not, pollen grain will not fall over the stigma properly. So to receive the pollen grains, the area of the stigma, it's become wider. So that's why you can tell the stigma is a landing platform of pollen grains. So what you can write over here, stigma? So it's just a landing platform. Okay, now simple, no other function is present. But in the stigma, once the pollen grains come, so in the stigma there is a presence of some chemicals, generally it's a glucose. Okay, so and by that sucrose, by that sucrose solution, once the pollen grain will fall over the stigma, it will absorb the sucrose solution and the pollen grain, it will become swallower, and due to that one later there will be development of the pollen grain, that we will discuss in the fertilization. Now just below the stigma there is a long slender like structure. What is that? That's called as style. Okay, it's called as style. So what is the style? So style is located below the stigma and above the ovary, and there is no particular other things is there. Now what is the function of the style? This style actually it's a connection. So what happens when the pollen tube will form, or when the pollen tube will germinate, that pollen tube will passes through the style. That is the only function. Okay, no much more detailed function is there. Now next move into the most important part, that is the ovary. So what is the ovary? If you check the basal portion or lower portion, so in the basal portion there is a solen part is present, this part. Okay, so now this solen part is completely called as ovary. Now what happens? Here we have to know 2 things very important, that is what is female gametophyte. So what is the female gametophyte? So the female gametophyte, it means where the gametes developed in the female part. So here the answer will be embryo sac. We'll discuss about embryo sac later. So very important, don't write that female gametophyte is ovary. Okay, sometimes it's asked in the question paper, and sometimes maximum time it's asked in the NEET examination. So what happens? The female gametophyte means embryo sac. And now can you tell me what is the male gametophyte? Yes, the male gametophyte is pollen. Okay, so the pollen grains are the male gametophyte. Pollen grain is the male gametophyte. Okay, and the embryo sac is the female gametophyte. Now look into the ovary in detail. So the intersolen part is the ovary. Now if you look into the detailed portion of the ovary, there is some reddish, I just marked over here with a red ink. So the reddish portion, it's called as ovarian locule or ovarian cavity. So what we can call them as? We can call them as also ovarian cavity, or also we can call them as locule. Now what happens? Close to the basal portion of the locule, okay, there is a presence of the placenta. So this is placenta. So we already know about the placenta. Placenta is a nutritive mass in case of the animals, okay, which that gives nutrition, okay. So same way here also in the basal portions of the ovarian cavity, we are getting the formations or presence of the placenta. And now from the placenta there will be emergence of the ovule, okay. Very slowly I am moving. So now from this placenta there will be emergence of ovule, or also we can call them as microsporangia. We can also call them as megasporangia. Also we can call them as megasporangia. Don't forget that, don't miss it. It's not a microsporangia, it's a megasporangia. So from where the ovule formed? The ovule formed from the basal portion, that is called the placenta. From that placenta there will be emergence of the ovule or megasporangia, and inside the ovule only there will be formation of the embryo sac, okay. And in the embryo sac there will be, we already know, there is a 7 cell and 8 nuclei condition will be also there. So in the forthcoming lecture we will discuss on also that how the 7 cell and 8 nuclei will also form. So once more I am discussing on this ovarian part. So what happens? The intersolent part is the ovary. Just below the ovary I marked with the red ink, that is the ovarian cavity or locule is same. Ovarian cavity and locule is same. Next is that just lower portion of the ovarian cavity or the locule, there is a emergence of the placenta or formation of the placenta, and from this placenta there will be emergence of the ovule or megasporangia. And inside the megasporangia, later you will also check that one, there will be total will be there. Some cells will be also form over here. There will be formations of the 7 cell and 8 nuclei cell stage conditions will be there. Antibodal cells will be also there. Synergids will be also there. Polar nuclei will be also there. Egg apparatus will be also there. It will be developed inside this embryo sac. And now this embryo sac is the female gametophyte, okay. Now in the next video we'll discuss about the types of the ovule, this portion. This is the actually called as the anatropous ovule. So same way there are the also various types of the ovules are also present. Generally commonly we can call them as orthotropous, hemiorthotropous. So tomorrow we'll discuss on the different types of the ovule. Thank you.